Aloha, this is Dr. Ezra West coming to you live. 30 years ago exactly, I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil with my father. My father's name is Dr. C. Samuel West. He discovered the engine of the cells, the sodium-potassium pump, and we were making history. My father was asked to be the chairman over presentations that we had actually submitted to present. One of them is how energy from various sources can activate the lymphatic system to heal the body. And the other one is the cause of AIDS, how the HIV virus kills, and how to stop it. In fact, let's just go ahead and do a little share of, let's share the screen. Show you a little bit of what we're talking about here. This is a photo of my father on the left, Dr. Waldemar Olszewski, who is a past president of the International Society of Lymphology from Brazil. And that was me right there on the right, 30 years ago exactly. And yeah, we were in Sao Paulo, Brazil at the International Congress of Lymphology. So since my father was asked to be chairman, I was actually the one giving our presentations. And I was schooling top medical minds on how we were able to actually take people that had tested positive with HIV and clean them up so well that they were able to go right back and test negative. That's right. This is 30 years ago, right in the middle of the big AIDS scare. So yeah, what's possible? How do you know unless you put something into action, a principle into action to get the fruit? Sometimes you don't know until you do it. And sometimes we've had enough radical discoveries that we've been putting principles into action and getting results for so many decades that we basically have known what the results are going to be before we get them a lot of times, because we understand the process. And once you understand the process, see, every miracle has a process. If you understand that process, you can perform the miracle just as fast as me or anybody else. So that's the key. How many of you are ready to figure out and understand that process? There have been many systems built for teaching those processes, and we have membership areas available for different courses, different levels, and live training as well available. You can find out more information about that at ZeroDisease.com. So yeah, this is a legendary event. What happened exactly 30 years ago. It's amazing that here we are, September. It's like the 29th, going to be the 30th tomorrow. And here we go again. I'll do another screenshot, share another photo of what my badge looked like. The top of that badge, this is the 15th International Congress of Lymphology, September 25th through 30th, 1995. And this is in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So let's go ahead and this is history in the making, because exactly 7 months from then, some more history in the making. Actually, I'm going to share something that I was issued because of what was happening when I checked into this event. Even when I was at check-in with my father, getting our badges, they were calling me doctor. And I hadn't actually received an official doctorate degree yet, although I had taken all my father's material and updated it. It had been well over 2 years ago since I began that project. And I had created a team of coaches, health missionaries and health coaches that were trained by me and my father on how to help people through, understanding different health issues and the cause of those issues and the prevention, what to do about it, how to reverse major health issues. And we're mainly concerned with heart disease, cancer, diabetes, the big killers. And at the time, HIV was the big buzz. We're right in the middle of the big AIDS scare. So I went ahead and took a couple people who had called in, coached them through it, and helped them go right back and test negative. And because I was really involved in doing that, and I had actually invented a stem cell technology that I reattached my PCL in my left knee with in the summer of 1994, because I was actually creating a bunch of new science. See, when my father first got in his path, he had a lot of things just fell in his lap right away like magic. And when I first got started on my path, the summer of 1993, over 32 years ago, I actually had a lot of things falling in my lap, very similar to what my father had experienced. So, like a stem cell technology that I've since reattached brains from New York to LA within 24 hours without being physically present. That's right, long distance, no needles, no pills, no patches, no urine therapy. Yep, using the power of the word to activate the physiology, which my father actually was a master of. And I had already studied everything I could get my hands on to do with stem cells, everything I could get my hands on. And I want to show you a doctorate degree that was invented because of what I was doing. And through this process, through the whole Congress of Lymphology that I've been talking about exactly 30 years ago, my father watching me school top medical minds from around the world, many of which he had known and talked about himself his entire career. I was meeting past president from Australia, John R. Castley Smith, who came up with the proposal for lymphatic manifesto, which we just adopted as the lymphatic manifesto. And my father was watching me school these top medical minds, and was really impressed by it, evidently. People calling me doctor the whole time. When I first asked him about it during our check-in, you might laugh at this, I whispered to my father, "Hey, they're calling me doctor. What should I do?" And he kind of just looked at me, and with a very subtle smirk on his face, he said, "Just go with it." And not a big smile, but it's funny, the little muscles in his face that I just knew. I'm like, well, I'm not calling myself a doctor. They're the ones doing it. And the whole conference, that was the case. And it turns out the word doctor, from its Latin origin, docere, means to teach or teacher, which is exactly what I was doing. And my father, this got the wheels turning in his mind from this event exactly 30 years ago. He conceived the idea for the Doctor of Preventive Medicine, the PMD degree. So let's go ahead and show you what manifested 7 months from then. This is the doctorate that was invented because of me, primarily with what my father was watching me. Had already updated his materials and moved things forward to the extent that, he actually created the first doctorate degree out of his academy, the International Academy of Lymphology, which I have further evolved into Clarity University. This was the 1st of May. Again, that's basically exactly 7 months after this International Congress of Lymphology happened. And yeah, pretty awesome there. So there you have it, the story, a little bit of the story of how that doctorate degree was invented. And now I actually, through Clarity University, which I'm the president of, we actually issue the Doctor of Preventive Medicine, the PMD. And when people have asked me if I'm a medical doctor, I say, no, I'm not an MD, I'm a PMD. And it's like, most of the time I'll say it, I'm not an MD, I'm a PMD, Doesn't it sound like PMD must be way, way better, right? Well, Einstein, there's a quote from him. He said, intellectuals solve problems and geniuses prevent them. So I'd rather be a doctor of preventive medicine in lots of ways. It has zero entanglement with the government and with the pharmaceutical industry. There is not a required license in order to teach. And the original doctorates, originally from the Latin origin, again, doctrine means teachings. Doctor, from the Latin origin, docere, means to teach or teacher. And there's no license required to teach. So those plaques, those certificates and degrees, doctorates on people's walls, they're really only as good as what the people are behind them and what they're doing with it. It's actually how something is done that makes it more of what it is than anything else. So a lot of things happen out of that credibility of who I was. When my father handed me the reins of his organization, when he stepped out of that, I helped build empires. A major empire was, and recreating another one right now. So this is, the Doctor of Preventive Medicine. If you're interested in obtaining a degree like that, it starts out at certification levels that we've created that are more for lay public. And the Doctor of Preventive Medicine is really for someone who is taking education, wants to be a leader, who wants to help bring the kind of things that, they don't want taught, like the drug companies don't want taught, to the public. And here's something, let me share. This is a little device, giving a little example of what, this is a zero disease. That's what it says there. Isn't that kind of cool? Zero disease quantum bioscanner. It basically scans the body, put your hand on it, and with the software hooked up to the computer, in a couple minutes, it gathers all the information it needs to generate over 100 pages in a PDF report. It reports on 45 different ways of looking at all the systems in the body. So there's 45 different reports. And it tells you things like, really detail, it measures everything to the thousandths. So the 0.001. And according to the lab reports we have, it's about 85 to 95% accurate. And they say still today, nothing is 100% accurate, right? So, but it's like Star Trek technology. Star Trek, the device that would just scan over someone's body and boom, there's the report. Well, it takes a couple minutes. It's one of the fastest bioscanners on the market. And I'm helping bring those in, teaching people how to use them as a powerful educational tool. The laws, they require licenses to do things like diagnose, prescribe, things that medical doctors, you can hurt somebody if you do wrong, right? So there's no license required if you're not doing anything that would hurt somebody. So everything that I do is basically with disclaimers that we're not doing anything that normally require a license. It's for education purposes only. And whatever responsibility, for whatever results lies square on the shoulders of every individual. There's a saying, my body, my research. And, our laws protect that all day long. Like self-diagnosis, self-treatment, our laws protect that all day long. So we encourage everyone to get educated. And it sometimes takes a lot of wisdom to know who to learn from. So my father was pioneering the science behind all the healing arts. And he was one of the greatest cellular physiologists that ever lived. Cellular physiology is the basis of all physiology. And what that means, physiology, the word means functionality. We like to show you how to increase functionality with master keys for all the pillars of regeneration. And this is very powerful. Each pillar is like its own branch of the tree of life that's specific to regeneration, specific to what we call creating the zero disease in the body. There's an actual environment for every disease on the planet. Most people never heard of it. There is an environment for cancer, and it's actually the same thing as every itis. It means inflammation is what itis means. And the word tumor comes from this Latin origin tumere, which means to swell. So my father was the greatest champion at what they call terrain theory. Is the main aspect of that is whether there's inflammation or not. And that is whether there is the disease, for whatever disease you want to name, because they name it according to where that happens, how it affects that part of the body, who discovered it, who cares. It's all inflammation when it comes to that environment. And versus the zero disease environment, which is there's zero inflammation. In fact, when the energy shuts off in lack of oxygen with excess fluid, it always shuts off. That sodium potassium pump that my father discovered and named it that shuts off when the energy comes out that cell produces, which is very subtle, but it is measurable scientifically. That albumin around the cells, which is the water magnet, the same protein that's around a single cell of a chicken egg when you crack it open, that's responsible for that, all the clear fluid. Wherever that protein goes, that fluid goes inside the body as well. You have mostly of all the blood proteins in the blood, mostly albumin. The whole content leaves every 24 hours. It goes out to the cells, in the spaces of the cells, and it's supposed to be retrieved every 24 hours by your lymphatic vessels. And when that doesn't happen, without oxygen, cells shut off wherever you get that inflammation. And people wonder why they end up with tumors. The tumor is basically rigor mortis, just in a localized state. That's right. It's the same process that causes rigor mortis when someone dies, with enough cells in the body throughout the whole body shutting off. It happens through the whole body. But when it's just localized in one area, then they call it a tumor or an itis. But it's what's responsible for making that tumor hard is when that energy comes out, the albumin locks. When we bring that much energy back in, it unlocks. So we can unlock it with energy. How many energy technologies are there out there? And then we can activate the lymphatic vessels to pull it out. And we have more lymph vessels and blood vessels, more lymph than blood. I am going to have to sort of wrap this up here because I don't want to make this video too long. This is something that, we can talk and talk and talk about hours and hours, lots of different topics. Everything ties into this. Even the integration or disintegration of truth itself all ties into this. But I just wanted to make this a really, more of a shorter introduction. If you want more information, go to zerodisease.com and find out about all the different books. You can start out just with a book called Introduction to the Science of Lymphology and the Art of Lymphosizing. That's probably the very best read if you just wanted to get something to read. 44 pages of just summing things up in simplicity. You get the very, best written introduction on the planet to what we're talking about. And then if you're interested in more of those master keys to each branch of regeneration, what is supposed to be a pillar in your life, they each have their own master key. I don't know anyone who talks about them the way that I do, figuring out what those are. You can just start flipping switches by activating these keys. There's a key for the hormone branch, a key for the DNA branch, a key for the microbiome branch, on top of what we've already talked about as keys for removing inflammation. So, and there's more. There's keys to superhuman abilities, like how higher realm beings communicate massive amount of data within a split second. And when you do that to babies in the womb, you're able to create what's called prenatal empowerment, which is the leading edge of education, let alone what we're doing to help their bodies be super healthy. So why wait 9 months to find out if there's a physical issue going on with their development? We don't do that. We activate all the glands that are responsible for every developmental stage the whole 9 months. So we found out fast and easy ways to do that, where parents can do that like within a snap of a finger, that fast. And they can do that for each other. Talk about literally turning each other on. And how would you like to know, if you're a married couple, how to renew your vows with literally every beat of your heart? That's another level that is possible, and how to renew them and modify them as your relationship develops at a whim in the beautiful moments. And so that's another level of what is possible. Well, these are superhuman abilities. If we actually reach a point that we're regenerating faster than we're degenerating, that's what I call immortality. It doesn't mean we can't be killed if we step out in front of a moving truck. And I think there's a lot of ways people do that, especially metaphorically. So anyway, There's, again, this is Dr. Stephen Ezra West. I go by my middle name, Ezra, and nickname Dr. Ez. If you're up to some fun, if I can't have fun doing something, I probably won't do it. How many people like things that are just easy, like Dr. Ez? Hey, but not just anybody can call me Dr. Easy, okay? And if you start laughing, then at least you get it. Hey, till next time, hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. If you do, click the like, subscribe, and also share it. Please share the beautiful messages. All right. Till next time.